It hadn't even taken a week before they received word that the enchantments had been cracked. Apparently, Lincosta's little team was quite productive, possibly fueled by having the prize right in front of them. It managed to fit their schedule rather well too, Tom having just finished whipping up the elusive shaped charges. Getting the boom powder to hold its shape had been a little tricky, but when Gliro swung by for a checkup, Tom had a little consultation with Twitch, and they got the mix right. A tiny amount of oil and some animal fat being added to the boom powder resulted in something that at least held its shape rather well until it got too hot. Twitch claimed it was like a safety feature. If it melted, you should be worried. Sapphire wasn't quite sure how she had ended up being the one to light the fuses, but at least Jackie had lent Saf her ear defenders for the actual blast. It was only Tom, Saf, Jackie, and a few members of Gliro's crew down here right now, preparing the charges. Everyone else is way further up the tunnel. Saf and Twitch were supposed to be Tom's assistants, as he worked the dangerous and volatile magic. The boys had retreated out of the room, leaving her with the job of lighting the fuses. The fact that Tom had said, minute-ish, didn't exactly inspire confidence, and judging by how far the others had retreated down the hallway, she better run like hell. As the fuse sputtered to life, she took off running, before kicking off into the air, making her way down the hallway, flying flat out, landing in front of the two. She opened her mouth and put her fingers in her ears like she had been told to. That did make her look sort of overdramatic when it took a good 10 seconds from when she landed until the boom filled the cavern. What a boom it was, as it echoed down the tunnel again and again, slowly dying out. Saf felt like she needed to check if a horn had been shaken loose. "I want some of those," Twitch let out excitedly, once he got his fingers out of his ears. "Maybe someone would be willing to give you a hug then," Quincy added, sounding dead serious. "Hey, fuck you too." "Good to hear the army doesn't change," Tom added. "Should we go and see if we got something?" "Aye, let's go have a peep," Jordan added, getting up and dusting himself off a little, though still being very gentle with his arm. Rounding the corner, there was a fair amount of dust in the air, but other than that it didn't seem too bad. The door was still in place though, much to their annoyance. The hinges looked mostly broken though, and Tom had said better too little than too much. Everyone else was brought down now that the coast was clear. A few eager volunteers, armed with crowbars, hammers and chisels, scaled the door, going at it for a few minutes. Eventually the top hinge gave way on one door, sending the thing crashing to the ground with a boom. "Wow," was all Saf had to say. "What the hell is that?" Quincy asked, more agape. "Books. They contain knowledge. I recommend reading one," Twitch was quick to respond. Quincy giving him the finger before the academics among them charged right to the edge of the doorway, all seemingly remembering what had been protecting this place at the same time, and coming to a sliding halt right on the precipice of the vault. "You go first." "No, you go first." "Pussies," Lincosta stated as she stepped inside, though Saf could see her holding her breath as she entered. She sighed in relief when nothing happened. "Dad is going to be so proud." "I think the Nook too," Saf went to herself as she tried to get a look inside, pushing past Quincy. "Oh, Tom is going to be in for a rough time for sure." "Oh shit," was Tom's first thought when he looked inside the vault. It contained several shelves with stacks upon stacks of books and scrolls, and something more concerning, blue paper with wide lines on it. That better not be what I think it is, Tom thought to himself, as everyone just stared inside the vault. Because if it was, then his little project of sitting on the Industrial Revolution might just have gone down the drain. Then again, who was to say what incredible things might be in there? The delegation from the Academy quickly switched over into order everyone about mode, getting the soldiers to work carrying out the books into the central room, bringing out the tarps and blankets they had used as part of their sleeping accommodations. Tom, though, was more interested in what might be on those blueprints. It all looked a touch hastily thrown in there, but quite a few were rolled up together and bundled, so he took one to go have a look at. The paper was still soft and pliable, so whatever magic had kept it safe was surely next level. Tom looked around at all the academics, busily going through everything. "Found anything fun?" Saf questioned, as he rolled out the pristine paper on the blanket-covered floor. "Yeah, I would say so," Tom went, looking down at the pages. "Is this the part where I pretend to know what that is while nodding sagely?" Saf questioned, squatting down next to him. "Actually, I was hoping you could tell me what that is," Tom went, pointing at the little figure in the corner, which he guessed was for scale. If that was the case, then whatever this was pretty damn big. At least the size of a large pickup truck. "No idea. Looks a bit like you, though. Wait," Saf replied, squinting at the page before looking at Tom, eyes wide. "No, the legs are wrong and no wings, and the fingers are webbed," Tom replied, looking at the strange biped. But that certainly isn't a dragonette. Well, it's not one of those chittery bugs from the south either. Lancaster, come have a look at this, Seth replied, looking around to find Lancaster. What is it? The mage replied, trotting over. What is that thing? A bipedal creature, the mage responded after a quick glance. You know, sometimes you don't sound as smart as you think, Seth countered, sounding very unimpressed. Well, how should I know? It's just a little doodle. No, it's not, Tom interrupted. That must be who built this place. Why would they put anything else on here? Because that is definitely a machine, and a sleek one too. I'm betting that's the pilot. Pilot? Seth questioned. It almost looks like a flying machine. It's only missing the wings, but it has an open cockpit, so it's no submarine. A what? Underwater boat. It dives beneath the water and stays there for a long time, Tom quickly explained, looking back at the designs. You bastards are crazy. And I'm not the one who designs planes without wings. It looks awesome though, and fast. Wait a second. Oh, I'm an idiot. It flies using gravity oil, of course. So it's a flying machine then, Seth added, looking down at the drawings. Safe to say, yeah, I want this, Tom replied, looking up, but while scanning around looking for the Colonel. She really ought to see this. Well, I'm guessing that's all metal. Jeez, that's a lot of metal. I don't think we can make this. Neither here nor in the capital, Lancaster added, scratching behind one ear. I mean, I know Shiver is good, but No, but we might be able to use some of it. There must be stuff here on how the gravity oil works. Wanting to bet that thing flies using it. And that looks like an engine to me. No clue what kind, though. Where are the cylinders? Is this steam? If you didn't already know this, when Tom goes, what is that? We usually run and hide, Saf went, looking at Lancaster. Or just pretend nothing happened. Whatever fits your fancy. Hey, come on. I mean, I know what a lot of it is. Those little stumpy, I guess, winglets must be for steering. They can clearly move. I think cable operated. That's the engine, I think, or maybe the boiler. That is lift since, well, it's in the middle and looks very complicated, probably using grav oil. There must be more drawings on this thing. I want to see them all. Fair enough, Lancaster replied, taking the drawing and holding it up for all to see. Listen up, folks. I want everything concerning whatever this thing is. There was a brief halt to activities as people inspected the drawing before the work continued. Victoria coming over, her curiosity lightly piqued. I take it you found something good? Oh yeah, Tom replied. No way we can make it, but we might learn a few things. It's an aircraft of sorts, it has guns too, and that looks like pylons, probably for bombs. It's a warplane, alright. This would make dragons obsolete overnight, Tom went, looking more closely at the guns. They weren't detailed here, likely getting their own drawing. I'm sorry, what? Victoria broke out, looking at Tom incredulously. For air battles at least. It would be faster, I think, and have better weapons range, so it could just dictate the flow of battle. You know, keep on running and gunning with impunity. Victoria didn't seem pleased by that news in the slightest, looking down at the drawings with a determined expression. What weapons does it carry that could not be mounted to a dragon? The Colonel eventually questioned in a calmer tone. Tom had to think on that for a second, inspecting the design. Well, machine guns might make the fight a bit more fair, and you could put bombs on anything that can carry a payload. Actually, can I talk with you for a second? Tom replied, standing up and nodding his head in the direction of the tunnel they had come through. I don't think we want everyone to hear this. Very well, the Colonel replied in a slightly suspicious tone, following Tom out of the room. Saf following along as Jackie got put to work hauling bookcases, with a fair amount of protest. This could lead you people down the road I warned you about, you know that, right? I can guess. Did you mean what you said about making us obsolete? Centuries of service relegated to the history books? The Colonel questioned in a lower tone. Just like that? Yeah, well, I'm not saying you will be by tomorrow, but if the sky is full of those things in there, then a dragon would be little more than an inviting target. And what if this is not the only vault like this? What if the enemy finds another one? Then what? Then we might be rather screwed, Tom had to concede. Fuck, why can it not have just been money or some fancy materials? Hell, even just normal historical documents. He cursed to himself. I just found a steampunk flying machine blueprint and I'm angry. What the fuck is wrong with me? We could stockpile it and not share unless we have to, Saf interjected. Just like we are doing right now. It would take years, if not decades, to even develop what is needed to make them, Tom countered. Hell, that would take a full-blown industrial revolution on a nation-spanning level. So if the enemy knows, we would end up behind, Victoria added. Fucking damn it. I'm not sure we can even keep this down here. I mean, look at them. I doubt they could keep their mouths shut, she continued, gesturing at the mildly organised carnage that was the cabin right now. Well, life is never easy, Tom replied, trying to think of what to do. Do I oppose them starting up? It would also hurt the keep. We wouldn't have that monopoly anymore. Good God, that sounds selfish when you put it like that. Would it even be right to try and deny them? What if it went wrong last time, and that's why they're back here now? But it wasn't a dragonette on the drawings. Oh, what the hell do I do? Excuse me, may I have a word? The trio looked up and turned to face the priestess. Did no one teach you about privacy? Victoria questioned in a sharp tone. I'm good at finding secrets, keeping them too. The contents of this vault must not leave this island until I say so. The priestess replied perfectly calmly. And why exactly is that? Victoria questioned, straightening her back, keeping her hard tone. You're a priestess. You have no authority over this matter. These are clearly of military value, and as such do not fall under your jurisdiction. Incorrect. I have all the authority. The priestess went, holding up a rosette with a draconic rune of the letter I on it. Victoria's posture very quickly changed to a far more respectful disposition, doing a quick salute. Saffling Costa looking more like a deer in the headlights. That better not be what I think it is, Tom cursed to himself. Now I recognise that we need to act smart here. Step 1. These people now live down here. They will study the contents of the vault, organise them, and sort it and make copies just in case. It will then be taken to the Cathedral of Light, where it will be entombed until such a time as it is necessary to be brought to bear on the enemy. Any more advanced items or weapons will be handled by the Inquisition alone. Wait, so you know what that thing is? Tom questioned, gesturing in at the still rolled out blueprint. I certainly do. They are often just referred to as flyers or skyships, depending on size. We have not allowed the construction of one in centuries. Excuse me, Inquisitor, but may I inquire as to why? Victoria questioned in a very polite tone. I am no Inquisitor. I'm an investigator by rank and an archivist by trade. My apologies, Investigator. Well, fuck me sideways, and here I was worried about making a machine gun or two, Tom replied. Sav stiffened up and looked at the priest, terrified. Oh, right. Language. Yes, we will get to that part. To be honest, I do not know how you know what you do, but I'm definitely interested in finding out. I was sent here on an inkling that there will be something worth having in our collection in these vaults. I must say, this is far beyond what we were expecting, the investigator replied, looking like she was trying to make up her mind. Judging by your apparent expertise when it comes to these ancient constructs, I must assume you have not been telling the truth about your origins, unless this fantastical northern nation of yours is more advanced than thus far expected, the investigator said, looking at Tom with a gaze that seemed awfully different from her earlier demeanour as the god-spitting priestess. Right. Shit, Tom thought to himself. Saf had talked about what the Inquisition did to the bitch, as well as a few other stories people around the keep had heard. So safe to say they probably weren't to be messed with. No, I'm not from around here. Like, at all, Tom replied, trying to sound apologetic. Excellent, you'll be very useful then, the investigator replied, her demeanour switching to almost cheerful before looking at Victoria. You are the one related to Jelena, correct? I am, yes. Victoria Yrrol, at your service. What the fuck? Was probably the main thought in Sapphire's head right now, next to things like, we are gonna die, and no, she's still smiling, it's all good. Of all the things to have happened, an inquisitorial agent showing up down here and catching them lying, technically to both the church and the crown, while in conspiracy with the royal guard, was pretty damn bad, all things considered. Excellent. I feel we need to get a bit further away. Was there not a member of the Bismarcky family down here? Lynn Costa is over there, Sapphire stammered out, pointing at the mage. Mind fetching her? The investigator questioned very politely, if rather pointedly. Yup, no worries, Seth replied, setting off at a hurried walk towards Lynn Costa, trying her best to walk fast without looking too conspicuous. Not that it really mattered. Everyone was running around looking very excited. Hey, you are coming with me, Seth went, grabbing a hold of Lynn Costa's arm, starting to drag her back over. What? Hang on, why? This is important work, Seth, Lynn Costa protested, turning to look at Sapphire. No explaining, just come on, like right now, Seth replied, doing her best to convey the seriousness of the situation with a stare. Okay, geez, I'm coming, Lynn Costa relented, following Saf out the door. A few of the other academics looked up a touch confused, but none seemed too bothered though. Or more likely, they were more interested in what they were looking through. The priest is an investigator from the Inquisition, Saf went in a hushed tone into Lynn Costa's ear. Well, shit, was all she said in reply, speeding up to match Sapphire's pace. You requested my presence, Lynn Costa went with a bow. Indeed. I say we go a bit further down the tunnel, the investigator replied with a nod, away from any too well-adjusted ears. As they walked, Saf's heart was racing, looking back and forth at everyone in their little group. This is bad, she kept repeating, not sure what to do about it. Nor why she was even being brought along right now, likely just because she too had gone caught red-handed. I reckon this will do, the investigator went after a short walk, turning back to look at all of them. You may call me Investigator Koollman, or just Investigator. Time for a crash course in politics and real history, I think. We have safeguarded forbidden knowledge for a long time. A very long time. By our best estimate, the archivist wing of the Inquisition represents over 2 millennia of work, but many fear worrying times are ahead. There were a fair few seconds of silence before the Colonel spoke up. The attacks on the outer keeps? Victoria questioned, in a cautious and really rather confused tone. No. The fact that they found this place. The re-emergence of what I believe you have named night terrors. Hang on, re-emergence? Saf had to question, having been caught off guard for a second before cursing herself for interrupting the investigator. Indeed. The enemy has found something, and it either led them here, or made them come here seeking something they needed. That coal mine raid wasn't for warmth in winter now, was it? Tom questioned. Some of us think not. Some of us think the time to open our own vaults is approaching. Following the last Great War, the kingdom has been recovering, but now it looks like it might start to wane. We are nowhere near the might we held before the last true war. You're looking for an edge? Tom questioned, looking curiously at the investigator. Indeed. But some believe we are to maintain our secrecy until there can be no doubt the knowledge is needed, that the world should be allowed to develop naturally and without interference. But as you said, such development is no quick process, even if we were to start encouraging it a little. Right, Tom replied, clearly swallowing. You, though, are in the best sense of the word outside the system. You are not of this world, but you are not part of its past either. An interesting conundrum, to be sure. You might be just what we need to help things along. Sounds like a dangerous game to be playing with rules like that, Tom replied, not quite sure if becoming a pawn of the Inquisition was quite what he had in mind for the future. Most definitely, which is why I don't believe a lot of people should know too much, at least not yet. As I said, these people now will live down here, like they have done for the last week or so. Once their work is done, they will keep their secret. I'll make sure of that. But if certain extra copies were to end up at your keep before the knowledge is sent back to the archives, that would just be a happy accident now, wouldn't it? I'm certain a certain Inquisitor Jelena would be more than willing to assist in that endeavour too. Wait, Jelena is in on this? Victoria questioned suspiciously. Jelena Hashor, the person with the leniency of a granite wall? She's more than in on it. She's probably the most vocal advocate you'll find. Not many are willing to argue the point openly, after all. Personally, I think it's her military ties that are responsible. A soldier is always looking for a better weapon, which is understandable, of course, the priest replied, looking back at Victoria. Sorry if I'm being dumb, but why keep these things a secret in the first place? Saf questioned, bracing herself for the consequences. It would depend on who you ask, but in general the consensus would be that we must avoid tearing ourselves apart. Some think we must remain equally matched against the enemy to preserve balance. Others that we must achieve enlightenment by ourselves. Then again, some just look at old dusty commandments and think we should simply preserve this knowledge for no reason, aside from that we were told to do so. Well, that suddenly resulted in an awkward silence for several seconds, both Tom and Victoria looking like they were going to say something before thinking better of it. So you want us to go behind the back of the Inquisition while working for the Inquisition? Lancaster finally questioned, sounding more than a little incredulous. Also, do you have any idea how much time we have probably wasted at the Academy trying to figure out the world and how it functions? She continued, almost pleadingly. Yes, essentially, and no, nor do I care. And unless you want the wrath of the Inquisition to be brought down on your pretty little keep, I suggest you cooperate too. We haven't found anything like this in my lifetime. Certain elements of the Order would more than likely be willing to wipe the island clean to ensure no witnesses. Lancaster just stood there for a few seconds wide-eyed before looking back at the investigator. Not like you leave us much of a choice there. Indeed. Now, judging by the fact we haven't heard about anything too miraculous coming out of this, aside from a few knickknacks, I'm guessing you two are keeping big secrets, the investigator continued, looking around at them. Kinda, Tom eventually went, with a strained expression. We may have been toying around with a few ideas. Very good. I would like to see what you have managed thus far at some point. Again, we would greatly appreciate it if these ideas of yours do not leave the keep. There might be support to be had for this little escapade of ours, but it is very far from unanimous. Jelena is betting on the enemy swaying things in our favour in the not-too-distant future. Once it becomes evident that the kingdom is in danger, I think we will see a lot more progress on the political side. Why are you telling us all this? Victoria eventually questioned, her expression betraying her lack of understanding. For For starters, I can either convince you to work with us, or have the entire place exterminated, so I might as well try the diplomatic option first. Secondly, we have not seen an opportunity like this in my lifetime. I will have to consult with Jelena before proceeding much further. For now, this must be contained, until a proper plan can be laid. So, just act natural? Tom questioned, looking at the investigator. Exactly. Pretend like nothing has happened. Actually, it's probably best that if questioned, the vault has not yet been opened. Then we will let you know how best to proceed. All agreed? There were nods from everyone involved, except Saf, who took a second to catch on before she nodded too. I must let Mum and Dad know, Lincosta replied with a fearful expression. Of course, I'm sure they will understand, the investigator responded with a sagely nod. Now, no need for that sour demeanour. It sounds like we are very much on the same team here. Willingly or not, Saf went to herself, swallowing at once as she forcibly smiled. Well, that had turned into a bit of a shit show. Victoria had gone around informing all the people under her command of the situation, but they all lined up and blocked the exit to the cavern. Then the investigator had set to work explaining the situation to everyone involved. Everyone was quite surprised, to say the least. Most had questions, but others were just standing there in shock, not sure what to do. But I have spent my whole life at the academy. My brother worked for years to help me pay for it, one of the academics protested after recovering from the shock. And I still need to pay him back. You are still employed while working here. I'm sure arrangements can be made to send funds his way. Now, are there any more questions, or can we get to work? I want to know what we are working with before I head for home to report all this to my superiors, understood? There was a general consensus of nodding around the room otherwise being completely quiet. I'm guessing that applies to us as well? Tom pondered to himself, looking around. Is this good or bad? Can't leave, at least for now. I didn't really want to, though. It's not my responsibility anymore. They already know. He was going to have to ponder that one for a fair bit. It did almost feel like a weight being lifted off his shoulders, but at the same time, he really didn't like this. It would mean he was most definitely not in control anymore. The Inquisition was, and he really didn't like that. Was he really that much of a control freak? There were indeed no further questions as the work resumed, even if the mood was very different. It felt tense, and gone was the excited chattering from only moments before, replaced with quiet shuffling and grunts of effort as they worked, people speaking in hushed tones. It apparently rubbed the investigator the wrong way, though, as she spoke up again. Come on. It's not every day you get to work for the Inquisition. Do as you're told, and you'll be rewarded. And what I want you to do is exactly what you came here for, sounding all excited. I thought you lot would be excited to know how much more there is to learn. Now, has everyone seen anything labelled Otrox? That did seem to help a little, even if no one had found whatever she was looking for. Some tension returning when no one said anything. Don't worry about it, just keep the name in mind. We're on the same team here, the investigator went in an almost jovial tone, before going over to Lincosta and whispering something in her ear, then coming over to Tom. Best let them get to it. They seem a little tense, and we have much to discuss after all. Now, where did that colonel go?